Today what I want to do is present some of the findings from the research project. And we were approached to carry out this project by the Limerick ESOL Partnership, which is a partnership of what was then Limerick City VEC, Limerick County VEC and Durrës-Lumley. And basically what they wanted to do, it touches on a little bit what Sandra said this morning. What they had noticed in Limerick was, because of the change in government policy around, you need to engage in education and training if you want to keep your dole, basically. So what was happening was a lot more ESOL learners were being referred to the service. And you're into this whole area then around whether people are mandated or motivated to be there. And I think that is something that maybe we need to, well not maybe, that we do need to look at in terms of the now changed classroom environment, because I'm not a practitioner, I don't pretend to be a practitioner, I don't know what it's like for you in the classroom. I can only begin to imagine what it must be like to have a number of people in a classroom who have been referred there and who don't want to be there and maybe aren't particularly motivated to be there. Now, what we found during the course of this research was that people who had been mandated to the programme, actually some, now not all, became motivated through the process and did want to stay on and did want to learn and did want to progress. So it was a bad situation that became better because they were engaging in the learning and they were getting something from it. But I do think, I don't envy you, basically, in that position, I suppose, is what I'm saying. As I said, it was carried out at the request of the Limerick ESOL Partnership, and this report, I'm not generalising it to every ESOL situation, to every ETB. What I've documented here is specific to this cohort of ESOL learners in Limerick. Now, there may be similarities with your own experiences, there may not. So this is not to generalise, it's just to say this is what we found in this case. The focus of the project was ESOL learners' use of write-on.ie. As I said, we were asked to document the benefit of using a blended learning approach in the classroom with ESOL learners. The course took place over a 10-week period and it involved 41 learners. And the primary aim was to highlight the benefits, if any, to learners and providers of using write-on.ie as part of the approach. The majority of the learners in the ESOL classes were Eastern European. The vast majority of those were Polish. And what the partnership, again, had discovered was that when the slump hit, when the crash came, it's very much as Sandra described. There were new people signing on for classes who had been in the country for a number of years and who had little or no English. And so integrating into the wider community became an issue then, because where before, maybe they got up, they travelled outside Limerick to go to work, they worked on maybe a building site where everyone spoke the same language, they have satellite television at home, they're watching Polish, Russian, whatever it may be, programmes, and they had their own circle of friends where they talked their native tongue to one another. So English wasn't really an issue until they found themselves in this situation where they had to upskill, look for other work and take part in education and training. So the providers in Limerick were looking for ways to address that, to provide the learners with a level of English that maybe a traditional approach mightn't be able to accommodate, because an awful lot of the learners didn't have literacy difficulties in their own language. And some of them would have higher education qualifications from their own country. So for a lot of, particularly the Polish-speaking learners, it was a language rather than a literacy issue. And that's where using the blended learning approach did assist them. Over the duration of, we talked to the learners before they started the programme and after they finished the programme to see if there had been any development. Now, remember, this is only a 10-week period, so I'm not making great claims here. But over that 10-week period, they did say they had an increase in confidence in a number of learning and life situations at work and particularly out socialising. They were more inclined to maybe stop at the shop and have a chat, or rather than have their children ask for something that they wanted, they were actually doing it and felt confident enough to be able to do it themselves. So they did have an increased confidence level when expressing themselves in English. It also encouraged independent study because some of the learners were working part-time as well, so they couldn't always make the 2-hour session or 4-hour session or wherever it might be a week. So they could use the online programme to keep up with what was happening in the classroom, and they found that a good benefit. Now, for this study, we used writeon.ie. That's not to say you can't use other online learning tools if that suits better, because some of the negative things that the learners said about the programme was they had great difficulty in understanding the mechanical voice, but we're on a limited budget in Hala. There's no way we have the funds to be able to pay for a real life person to be able to speak. So we're stuck, unfortunately, with the mechanical voice. But it was an issue for them, and as was, which I was fascinated by, and again, I hadn't thought about it. There is a sports section on writeon.ie, but it's really all about the GAA. So again, they were saying, well, what's hurling? What's these points? Whatever it might be. And, during the interview, I was trying to explain to them what that was. So we were having a grand out conversation around that. So these were some of the reasons that they wanted to come back into education if they weren't mandated there. And it really was to improve their English, to improve their skills in reading and writing in English, and to improve their chances of getting a job, if that's what they were looking for. And I should say there was a divide between the learners in that. The migrant workers, for want of a better word, really were looking to improve their English, whereas the Duras Lumni were dealing mainly with refugees and asylum seekers, so there was a whole different need there in terms of literacy and language. So even within the cohort there was a divide there, and we were very aware of that. But actually the Duras Lumni people benefited quite a bit, and this is what they told us, from engaging in this blended learning approach. Again, the availability of accreditation was important, as was having a tutor to explain the site. So again, they can work independently depending on where they're at, but you do need the tutor there to explain what's going on and how the site works and to facilitate the learning. And they weren't that impressed with the chat option, but the voiceover, again, they did appreciate that, but because of the mechanical voice, it wasn't great. So it allowed them to improve their English language skills, to work independently at home, and to catch up on schoolwork. So having carried out this, and it's very rushed, but as I said, I did just want to draw your attention to this. You might find it beneficial. We made a series of recommendations, and it is that centres where possible, provide blended learning opportunities to ESOL learners, to develop blended learning approaches that best suit the skills and needs of ESOL learners. I don't mean to be preaching at you with this, you're probably already doing that. These are probably just obvious recommendations that we're making, but we thought we'd make them. Where ESOL learners are keen to improve their skills outside the classrooms, offerings such as writeon.ie should be promoted. And as I said, there are other online learning tools that you might want to try. What was of value to the learners as well is that if they came across a word they didn't understand, they were using Google Translate quite a bit. So that was a great facility for them to be able to use and improve their broaden their vocabulary and learn different words. And that, you consider writeon as a means of offering ESOL learners accreditation through recognition of prior learning as well. So my contact details are there. You can download this. I brought along hard copies of this report. You can also download it from the web. You can log on to writeon.ie. I know most of you here are members. Thank you very much for that. I've been asked to ask you if you wouldn't mind encouraging a few more of your friends to become members as well. And I think that's it. There is just one other thing I want to mention. Earlier this year, we did launch 2 other research reports, and they're case studies on numeracy practice in Ireland and reading strategies. And what we did was we documented practice in 5 centres around the country with tutors on how they, in their day-to-day work, teach numeracy and reading to adult literacy students. We launched those reports this year. Again, they're on the NALA website. They're free to download, or if you want to get in contact with me, I can post you out a copy of them. But there may be tips in those case studies, because they are geared towards practitioners, that can help you in your work.